Welcome to Master Your Market. I'm Chris Ashmore. Have you ever considered planning your life 10 to 20 years down the track? If you're hitting your 50s, like I am very soon, it might be worth taking some time out to write down what you want to do and where you want to be 20 years from now. My guest helps her clients do just that. Shannah Kennedy is a life coach, and she's written multiple books, including Elevate, which she co-authored with Colleen Callender, who was on this podcast just a few episodes ago. Shannah talks about a lifestyle era where people work later in life, but also focus on their health, on their hobbies, and on their overall life experiences. And you only have one life, so why not make the most of it? And like all my guests, she explains how she markets herself and her books, and you've heard this before on other podcasts from other guests, her books have been important marketing collateral for her. Please enjoy this conversation with Shannah. I know I did. Well, Shannah, firstly, thank you and welcome to Master Your Market. I suppose to start with, we're going to dive deep into the deep end. Could we start with yourself? Where did your journey and as a business and life coach begin?
Well, it began because I got very sick, which is very strange, isn't it? So, 25 years ago, I was working in corporate sport, married my job, loved my job, every second of my job. My job was my identity, my title. And I was working with elite athletes and doing all of their sponsorship contracts and traveling around watching sport the whole time, which was like a dream job. It was the Jerry Maguire job that every single one of my friends wanted. And I loved it too. I loved it so much. It was in my blood, and it just made me quite sick because I had no off switch. I didn't think about health and well-being. I didn't think about longevity. I didn't think about boundaries or protecting the asset, which was myself. So I got into full burnout. Just kept ignoring every warning sign and pushing as a badge of honor, pushing right through as much as I can until I was really well entrenched in chronic fatigue syndrome, which actually put me in bed for a year. So That is actually how it all started, because I was thinking, well, who am I without my job? I don't know. 25 years ago, nobody asked those kinds of questions or asked about health or well-being. 25 years ago, it was go hard or go home. Mm-hmm. So in that awful, dull, depressive state where I couldn't move and the pain was horrendous, I actually started to think about the athletes and what I had seen over the past 10 years of suicide and gambling and drug addiction and alcoholism, of athletes retiring without a plan, who didn't know who they were, who, went from hero to zero overnight. And that sort of happened to me. It was a slow burn, but it happened. And I thought, wow, there's nobody that really cares about athletes. There's nobody that cares about business people when they retire either. It's like, here's your handshake and off you go. And it was a real eye-opening time for me because I employed myself a coach. And, only athletes had coaches in those days. And I thought, well, I want one too, because I'd been around athletes for so long. So I got myself a coach to really unpack a lot of those really bad mental strategies that I had around going hard and being lazy if I sat down and not listening to the signs and not protecting the asset and not having a plan for myself. So I worked very closely with a coach for a while, and that actually prompted me to study life coaching 25 years ago when nobody had heard of it. So you can imagine everyone thought I was a complete fool. Why would you leave your Jerry Maguire job to become a life coach? What is a life coach anyway? And I started my own business then from home. So working from home 20 years ago, no one had heard of either, to make sure that I could pace myself for the long term. I wanted a very successful long-term business doing life plans for every human on the planet, starting with my athletes. And it was instantly successful because of all of the athletes that I knew, and they knew me and they knew the work that I had done. So that's really how it started.
Right. That's an incredible story. And I suppose for you, or the athletes that you, train and coach and liaised with back in the day, there's this element that we all think, and I suppose they think of themselves as indestructible. They're performing at this peak level, and how dare anyone think that they're anything less than, being at that top level. But at the end of the day, they're human beings like everyone else, yeah.
And also, when you're an athlete, you have a lot of friends, right? Or perceived friends, hanger-oners, people that are very interested in you. And being in sponsorship, so did I. So I had like hundreds of friends because I had free things to give away all the time. Free sunglasses, I had money to give away, stickers to give away, gear to give away. So I had lots of friends too. And when I was in bed, the phone stopped ringing, and I actually felt the same as the athlete of, oh, well, where is everybody? You are nothing without your job. You haven't built your life without your job. And that was actually the prompt for me to study and to say, I need to create the human and create a business that fits the human, not the other way around. And bringing that to athletes to say, you need to create a life outside of sport, and a plan B and a plan C. And actually, when your body stops, what is life going to look like? Because we need to plant seeds now.
Right. This is just out of left field here. To, say, sporting teams, coaches, traditionally, they wouldn't want their players to think of anything else outside of their particular team. I remember years ago I was at an event, and there was a former AFL footballer who, when he was playing for, I won't say the team, he was the coach, very famous Australian coach, was negative about him wanting to pursue a university course. But he was towards the end of his career, so he's thinking of the next step. But the coach said, no, we're here to win a premiership. I do not want you to go and study, during the week. Yeah. And I think now, good on him for disobeying his coach's orders and going ahead and doing it anyway, because your time as an athlete, you're only there when your body can put up with it or perform. You've got your whole life ahead of you, don't you?
Well, what they didn't realise back then, which they do now, thank goodness, and there's a lot of work that's been done, is back then they thought just focus on sport. And what we found is with Olympic athletes, with footballers, that when they have a small something on the side, they actually look forward to go to training. If it's just going to training every single day, the same thing, they actually get bored. A lot of them back then, especially back then, just couldn't cope. It was too much. It was like, I'm not even looking. I know I should love it, but I'm not really loving it, and I could be better if I just had something else. So as soon as we introduced other things, very small things, a little side business, a newsletter that went out to a database that they were collecting every time they went to a function, they were collecting names and creating a brand for themselves. They were excited to go to training. Yeah. So now they realise that when we do make the athlete feel a lot more confident in themselves, they actually perform a whole lot better.
Wow. And is that a lesson for business owners as well, or entrepreneurs, that if they're so focused on their business without something else to look forward to, they're going to collapse in a heap?
Well, if they want a long-term business, I think in a startup, you have to do your 24-hour days or whatever they do, the big nights. But I think if you want a long-term business that is over the course of 10, 20 years, like myself, you have to learn to pace the marathon. And if you go out too hard, you do burn out and then you don't love it anymore. But if you can learn to pace properly, life's a marathon, your business is a marathon, stop at the Gatorade stations, check in with your times. When we do that properly, we can have a thriving business and a thriving life at the same time.
Now, you offer executive coaching, life coaching, and what is it these days, midlife coaching. How are they each different, or are they quite similar?
Well, all of it is quite similar, because it's about creating your 10, 20-year plan. It's about asking you the questions that people don't like answering and having your hand held while you're trying to figure out the answers. And you might not know the answers, but we all need a roadmap, and the brain needs a roadmap. And without one, it just is existing. It's like getting in the car and driving. If you don't have a plan of where you're going and what the stops are along the way, you're going to drive really erratically, really, like, you can't relax driving. You won't even notice the what's going on around you. You'll just be so focused on, I'm not sure which way next. I've got to read all the signs. If you've plugged it all into the GPS, yes, you might change it. We always plan in pencil, but we all need something. We need a version of a bigger, better version of ourselves, and we need to know our values. And most people absolutely don't know them.
Mm-hmm. Well, midlife, I mean, that's something that I'm coming to now. I'm 49. I turn 50 next year. I cannot believe it. When I was a kid, I grew up in a town called Marysville.
Oh, yeah.
About 100 kilometres east of Melbourne, and it was very much a tourist town. The fires, of course, devastated the place in 2008, but as a kid, there were many guest houses, and my mum, she worked at what was called Mary Lynn and Coringa, and it was catered for people who were 50 years old and over. And when I was a kid, I thought, well, one day when I'm old,
yes, I know,
I might stay there. And the kids weren't allowed there. It was for, but I think people probably did look a bit older. Those when I was a
think
kid.
they looked a little older and perhaps weren't as healthy, and we all know that 50 is now the new 40. So,
well, it is.
It is. We're very different. We operate differently. We have a different outlook on life now. We're not looking at retirement. We're actually looking at new beginnings, and starting fresh careers. And many people in midlife are actually studying, because we're going to be working to a 75. That's called your lifestyle era, and your retirement era is 75 plus.
Right.
So from 50 to 75, that's you could have another 3 careers if you like.
Yeah. Because gone are the days really where people want to retire at 67 or whatever the cut-off point now is when you get your pension. I can't imagine finishing work or whatever it is when I'm 67. I'd probably want to keep going to 75, maybe not 81 like Joe Biden, but certainly well into my retirement years. Is that what you're seeing? A lot of people, they want to keep going well after that retirement age?
Yes, well, we're calling it the lifestyle era, where we work, but we also build in a lot more lifestyle. So, more into our health, more into our life experiences, but we want to keep working and the main reason is we're living a lot longer. So we're living into our 90s now, whereas it used to, if you made 80, that was huge. It was like, wow, that's a good innings. Well, 80 just is nothing now. We need to get to 90, 95. So if you retire in your mid-60s, what are you going to do for 20 years? Like, it's a long time to play golf. So we need more. And that's why there's these new terminology around lifestyle era, where we work, we consult, we might have 2 little side hustles going, we might be mentoring, we might be working part-time, but we're also really building the landscape for the future of ourselves.
Right. So with your clients, this is probably an obvious question, or maybe not, do you sit down with them and sort of map out with them what the next 20, 30 years is going to be, and provide goals? How do you work with your clients?
Yeah, number one, we start with the foundation of your values, which change often in midlife. So the achievement that was at the top might move down a little bit in health and family and friendship and creativity, and then achievement. Our achievement junkie doesn't have to exist anymore. So once we've really established a very solid foundation of values, we build forward. So we would look at the next 20 years and think about what are the ages and stages, where are the kids, how old will the kids be? So in 10 years, you know, your kids will be finishing school. It's like, it's a very different stage for you. In 10 years, I'll probably be a grandparent. Mine have finished school. So it looks different. And when people see that the landscape is going to change, instantly they're like, oh, okay, well, this is what I want to be doing then. I do want to be fitter. I do want to be stronger. I do want to become really good at something else. So I might start studying something that I'm interested in, a hobby or something. So what are the life experiences that you might want? So it could be, yes, I'm going to walk the Camino by the time I'm 60, or yep, I want to go to a health retreat, or I want to visit Japan, or I want to do as many of the walking activities, hikes around Australia, perhaps pilgrim trails before I'm 60. And then after 60, I'm going to do these riverboats, you know. So people often, when we get creative, start to get very excited because they think, yes, you know, I've always wanted to walk a part of the Camino. Why am I going to do that when I'm retired at 67? That's too late. No, I need to bring that forward. So it gets exciting. And then we do a bit of wealth work because, you know, how much is it all going to cost? And what do you need to be doing today to ensure that you have enough funds to do what you want to do and look after yourself in the future?
Gotcha.
So it's pretty exciting.
Oh, my oath. Oh, my. And you often read how a lot of people in their 50s and 60s say that is they're living the best years of their life now. I know as I get older, I don't worry about things like I used to. Things are quite frivolous, you know, but when you're younger, you worry about, you know, all and sundry. Is it when you take your clients through these steps, do you take their partners along the journey as well, or is that something different? Or
yeah, I don't do couples coaching, but I coach one of them, and they will often then, you know, go and have these big conversations and ask the hard questions and try and work out. I mean, their values might not be exactly the same anymore. They might have different things on the bucket list, which is totally fine, you know. So you can do some different things as long as you've got a couple of things together. But generally, you both have to be wanting to go the same direction. So it is pretty powerful. But what's amazing, I think, is that when you put things on paper and you create the map and you can see that your life is going to change, you know, like driving from Melbourne to Brisbane to Queensland, as you're going to relocate, what are the stops along the way? You can start to get excited. You can start to visualize. You can start to create a big vision board for yourself. You can start to think about how fit you want to be, or what changes, or what habits you need to change. Or the best question is, what will I regret not starting today in 10 years' time? What am I going to regret just not starting right now in 10 years' time? So it really empowers my clients. They get incredibly excited because they've gone from the passenger into the driver's seat of life. They are the creator. They are the maker. They then look for incredible clues around them of like-minded people or courses, or start watching, you know, videos on how to make things or whatever they want to do. And they've got a new purpose. And that's exciting. I think that's really exciting. I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Now, Shannah, this podcast is called Master Your Market. And I just wonder, how do you market yourself as a coach?
Well, it's a really great question, because when my business started, there was no Facebook and no internet. So that's 22 years ago. So marketing was all about relationships. It was about going to networking events. It was about, you know, really building long-term relationships with companies and with people. And some of those people, I still do talks for their companies now, 20 years later. And as things have progressed, it went into a bit of Facebook, but I've never ever advertised as such or paid an advertising dollar. The whole thing has been around authenticity, and it has been through people and referral. And I love that, because the people that come to me are the people that really want to do the work. So I've really enjoyed that. And obviously writing books. So having written 8 books over the last 12 years, that's the credibility that generates a lot of client work, a lot of keynotes, and it's been a slow build. And I think the key to a long-term mastering your market is actually a slow build. It's not get in everyone's face. It's about how can you sustain whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Without, at risk of sounding like it's an obvious question, but specifically with the books, I mean, 8 books in 12 years, that's incredible. That's really incredible. How exactly does that get the word out? Is it just having the physical book at a speaking event, that kind of thing, or is it more than that?
It's more than that. So when you write a book, and I write for whatever's happening at the time, so, in lockdown it was Plan B, and now it's Elevate, and sometimes it was a book called Restore, and the Life Plan started it all. So those books then go into other languages around the world, so that generates, some talkability around there. So there's different ways it generates. It's actually selling them at conferences, which creates sales and income, obviously. They all go into the stores. So Kmart, Big W, into the airports, into Dimmicks. They then go into people's homes. Once they're in people's homes and people are reading a book and they say, I love this, I'm going to contact the author and I'm going to look her up. Oh, she does private coaching. And a lot of work actually comes through people who have actually read the work, they understand my style, and they connect with the way that I work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's terrific.
And it's a passive income. That's always nice too.
Oh, that's always good. So you've got more books still to write?
I've got one that's been in my head for about 15 years, and I think I'm going to write it in my 60s. It's a ripper. It's an absolute ripper, but I'm not quite ready.
Right.
I'm not quite ready.
We don't get an exclusive on what the title is.
No.
Fair enough.
I've been interviewing people already a little bit, and it's one I really want to enjoy, whereas the other books I've written, I've been, locking myself away and writing really hard and timelines and deadlines, and this one I actually want to really enjoy the words and take my time and use it as my farewell type of thing.
Oh, wow.
Save the best
fantastic.
till last, I say.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of last, I'm going to finish with this question, and a bit self-indulgent here, if you don't mind. What advice would you give to someone, perhaps who's running a business, maybe has a young family, he's got mortgage to pay, all these bills, maybe because of cost of living, the business isn't doing as well as it should, maybe in a bit of a funk, losing motivation, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Any tips for someone off the cuff that might be facing these challenges?
That would be most of the population, I would presume. So yes. I think it's really about going back to basics and working out your values, because your values are actually the KPI, not your business. And, my values are health is first, so mental, physical and emotional. What am I doing today to really add to that? Because when I add to that, my tank is full. And then I can go into the business and work out what needs to be done. And the second one for me is family, which is how do I want to show up for my family? Do I want to be fun? Do I want to be inspiring? Or do I want to be tired and exhausted? How do I want to show up for the podcast and the clients and the interviews and the talks? So really practicing showing up with that, abundance, and we get to play on the planet today. We woke up today. It's pretty exciting. We live in an incredible country with fresh air and fresh water and amazing food, and we have a bed, and there's so much to be grateful for. So when we turn the attention to that, I think it really helps with the funk. And then the achievement, and the achievement for me is really about, not even about how many books did I sell or how many podcasts are you on. The achievement is, what did I do today that's really serves me from not burning out ever again? And that could be doing some breath work, some movement, some journaling, some gratitude, contacting 3 or 4 people a day from the past in my business to keep my business moving, those kind of things. And I think then you take your mind away from, oh, I have to do all of this stuff. Yeah. I have to survive. So values are really important, and they're in every single book that I've written. And then one big change that I did make is on my to-do list, I turned it into, it's called the joy list. You get to do this. Yep. You get to pay the electricity bill. You've got electricity. You get to unstack the dishwasher. You get to feed the family. You get to do the washing, because I hate the washing, which means I've got a beautiful family that I can wash for. So really doing some mind hack stuff really has changed everything, because we're going to have a to-do list for the rest of our life. So why don't we just change it to I get to do? And it's incredible what that does to your mind. And then I think if you want a business that is long-term, you need to pace. It's not all going to happen today. It's going to ebb, it's going to flow, it's going to have highs, it's going to have lows. And we need to flow a little bit more and not hold on so tight. Everyone's hurting at the moment. Cost of living is terrible. Mortgage payments are going up. We just need to flow, because it's all cyclical. And when we turn, expectation into appreciation and change our story, can really change our life. And just focusing on the small things like that is what we can do for ourselves.
That's fantastic. What a great way to end. Shannah, thank you so much, and all the best.
My pleasure, and I wish everybody out there a great year ahead, and just go back to your own set of values, and the world is much simpler.